From our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Hundreds of dogs are looking for a new home after forced closure of the state's biggest puppy farm. It's an influx of rescue animals, the likes of which the RSPCA Tasmania has never seen, and it's desperate for help.
Oscar the Labradoodle is settling into his new digs nicely.
Oscar came to us about 10 days ago and he's perfect.
But he hasn't had the happiest of upbringings. One of more than 250 dogs surrendered from this puppy farm in Epping Forest in the Northern Midlands.
This is absolutely unprecedented for the RSPCA in Tasmania.
It follows a drawn-out legal battle as the RSPCA attempted to prosecute the business, Tasmanian Labradoodles, for overbreeding its dogs, eventually settling to sign a deed of agreement out of court, which will see the farm permanently shut down.
By signing this deed of agreement, they need to stop breeding dogs. There's a clause in the agreement to say that the owners of Tasmanian Labradoodles cannot set up another business. They can't even work for a breeding facility.
The charity now calling for foster carers and donations, facing a $250,000 bill to get all the hounds ready for adoption.
We needed to remove these animals at our expense because getting those animals off that site was the most important thing.
Now demanding stronger laws to prevent a repeat.
The RSPCA want a blank piece of paper and we want to start again.
Having found a new home already, Oscar is one of the lucky ones. The RSPCA is really only able to rehome 5 or 6 a month, which means that even with extra help, this process will likely take several months. The rest remain on the farm awaiting foster homes and eventually adoption.
They're a little bit smelly, they need a good groom, but they're very happy, adaptable dogs.
It saddens me a lot. There was 250 dogs, now there's 249. Oscar's found his home.
We contacted Tasmanian Labradoodles for comment. They didn't respond. Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
The hearing into domestic abuse charges against a Tasmanian judge has been adjourned until later this year. Justice Gregory Geeson has pleaded not guilty to counts of assault and emotional abuse or intimidation. He denied the allegations during evidence he gave before a visiting magistrate in a 7-day hearing which concluded today. Victorian Deputy Chief Magistrate Susan Wakeling is expected to return to Hobart to deliver her findings on September 12. A ground search is now underway in the state's southwest after the Westpac helicopter failed to locate an experienced bushwalker missing in the eastern Arthur Range. The 27-year-old New South Wales man was due to finish the walk on Sunday, but hasn't been seen or in contact with anyone since Friday. Archaeologists have unearthed more than 1,000 bodies buried under a construction site at a private boys' school in Hobart. The intricate process of exhuming the old graves has taken months, with more still to uncover.
Today, it's the site of one of the state's most prestigious schools. But more than a century ago, it was a final resting place for some of Tasmania's most prominent pioneer families, or not so final.
This has been the largest single exhumation project in Australia, as far as I'm aware of.
More than 1,300 human remains have been located at the former Queenborough Cemetery, 80% of those identified.
Surprised, shocked, I suppose, with the scale of what we were dealing with.
Digging got underway in March this year after 2 graves were uncovered during earthworks for a new school building.
We certainly did anticipate the exhumation process that we're now involved with.
The cemetery operated between 1873 and 1934, with thousands of burials believed to have taken place over the decades.
The last burial was in the 1930s, so we're not dealing with anybody that's been buried in the last 90 years.
Archaeologists have been able to identify some of the people buried through nameplates on the coffins, but the process is far from simple.
All done by hand. All of the exhumations are then put into their new coffins, and each one has an identifying nameplate.
Archaeologists say measures have been taken to ensure the remains are treated with respect and dignity. A permanent memorial is planned for the Cornelian Bay Cemetery if given approval by council, as well as a plaque here at the Queensborough Memorial Garden. The exhumation is expected to wrap up in September. Families of relatives identified in the burials will be notified, but for now it's more digging. Rebecca Gaidaneris at 7 Tasmanian News.
Two of Tasmania's biggest industries are teaming up to position the state as the country's top spot for a top drop. Tourism industry leaders looking to capitalise on the key ingredients driving our visitor economy to bring in more tourists by promoting our wine.
An ambitious plan to grow Tasmania's wine and tourism industries. Leaders from both sectors coming together in this workshop designed to attract more visitors to the Apple Isle. The aim, to make Tasmania the premier wine destination in the country.
A big part of that is finding new consumers and customers for Tasmanian wine, and a big part of that is bringing people to Tasmania and to our cellar doors.
The state's tourism industry supports 1 in 8 Tasmanian jobs, with regional areas being the most reliant on the sector. Sipping wine and touring Tasmania, key drivers for arriving visitors.
And that's what we want to see from our visitors. We want them going into the regions, investing in those regional economies and supporting Tasmanian jobs.
Recent research into the wine sector indicates it is on track to be the state's most significant economic driver by 2040.
We expect our wine production to quadruple.
With wine seen as the state's most transportable tourism product, the game plan is to boost the industry's footprint within Australia and overseas. The UK and US are Tasmania's top export markets right now, but Asia is within reach.
Our visitors that are coming to experience our cellar doors and our wineries, we want them to go back to their friends and families and rave about us and say, come back down, join us, and we'll head back down to Tassie.
Now that's something to raise a glass to. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's police minister insists there will be no reductions to the number of police on the beat, as the department tries to slash $35 million from its budget. That's despite internal documents released under Right to Information showing not replacing 70 staff members as they leave over the next 3 years as a saving measure to meet the target.
So we'll be, of course, working with the department to ensure that we're delivering those services efficiently and effectively, and that we're making sure that there is no waste.
You have the head of police saying that 80% of their budget is wages and that they're going to implement vacancy control because the government is directing them to find these savings.
The document says the measure would require either a reduction in services or the transfer of sworn officers to staff positions. Hobart's rental market has tightened, with the city recording a drop in the number of available homes over the June quarter. That's according to PropTrack. New rental listings were down more than 26%, the greatest decline of any capital city. While it could signal more competition for would-be tenants, it's not all bad news. Median rents have also fallen slightly, sitting at $510 a week. Hobart residents are set to have more travel options as the new transport strategy gets the go-ahead from Council, with more options set to be rolled out.
It's very important that we have choices, and the main focus of this transport strategy is creating that equity of choice.
I think it's super important as an e-scooter user myself, and also who has low vision. I find e-scooters are an essential part of my transport.
The plan is hoping to ensure the city's commuter network is accessible and meets the needs of all Hobartians. What's left of the William Crowther statue will be removed from Hobart's Franklin Square following a vote by the City Council. A plywood box has been covering the plinth since the likeness of the controversial Premier was cut off at the ankles by vandals. Once the rest of the statue is removed, it'll be replaced by temporary signage. More relief is on the way for King Island farmers, with the federal government expanding an assistance program. That's to cover charitable shipments of hay and other fodder from the mainland. The amendments to the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme have been backdated, meaning charity Need for Feed will be able to claim on its delivery to the drought-stricken island in May. The changes will be in place until next June. The Melbourne Cup has touched down in Tasmania on its global tour ahead of the race that stops the nation. Worth $750,000, this year's People's Cup was given the white glove treatment alongside a much earlier edition.
Point Repeat Estate and Vineyard turned on all the glitz and glamour we're used to seeing at Flemington. The champagne was flowing and the ladies were dressed to impress. Fashions on the field, a fixture on Melbourne Cup Day, recreated with a spotlight on cupware through the decades.
To me, the Melbourne Cup strictly means history, and the history of people gathering together, getting dressed up, all of that helps business as well.
Today's event boasting a Tasmanian connection to the race that stops the nation. Jockey John Letts rode Tasmanian horse Piping Lane to victory in 1972.
But Piping Lane has won the money. When I won the race, I went over the line, and it was my first ride at Flemington, and I went over the line, and one of the other jockeys hit me on the back, and he said, "Good luck to you, mate, you've won the Melbourne Cup." And I thought, what?
The 1972 Melbourne Cup today arriving on site in a horse-drawn carriage, led by the Tasmanian Police bagpipes. Inside the carriage, connections of Piping Lane's now deceased owner and trainer, Ray Trinder.
So he purchased him after the Deloraine Cup, so that basically the Easter Monday in 72, and 6 months later winning the Melbourne Cup. So very good judge of horses was my grandfather.
The prize money, a modest $70,900, but a Melbourne Cup nonetheless. Today, the 72 Cup came together with the 2024 Melbourne Cup in a marriage of sorts. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmanian News.
Some of Tasmania's own Australian of the Year alumni have touched down in Hobart as part of a tour of honour right around the state. 2024 Young Australian of the Year, Nayara, is among those being celebrated for making a positive impact. The actor and musician is hoping to encourage the next generation to also aim high.
There's so much opportunity out there for creating your own work, for forging your own path, for getting together with other creatives.
Nominations for next year's Australian of the Year awards are closed at the end of this month.
There were some hard lessons learned by the Tassie women against a high-quality New South Wales ACT team on Saturday. But according to Clarence skipper Jacinta Limbrick, those lessons will come in handy when the girls return to their clubs this week.
They were very talented. They could run. Anything that I can take back, I will. And yeah, hopefully we can get over the Tigers on the weekend.
Jacinta was our best on ground in her first rep match for the year, 6 weeks after tearing her MCL.
Good evening. Today, maximum temperatures were generally 2 to 5 degrees above average, with Denali recording the state's high of 19 degrees. Hobart not far behind with 18, Launceston and Devonport both 15 and 16 the top for Burnie. Across the island, we saw 18 recorded at Bushy Park, Flinders Island and Grove 17, 16 for King Island, Smithton, St Helens and Marai Island. Strawn 15, Low Head 14, Lyowini 8, just 3 degrees warmer than their overnight low of 5. A thin layer of high cloud pushed over the state today with low cloud about inland parts of the north and west. A long line of frontal cloud is seen extending from the southwest of WA to the south of the Bight and Tasmania. Tomorrow the high will move eastward into the northern Tasman Sea as the cold front moves through southern WA and across the Bight. North to northwesterly winds, 20 to 30 knots, reaching up to 35 knots at times about the west, with westerly swells increasing up to 3.5 metres. We have a gale warning tomorrow between southeast Cape to Stanley, and also a strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters and inland lakes. There is also a minor flood warning for the North Esk River. Fine and sunny for Hobart and Geeston tomorrow, 17, much the same in Bothwell, 15. Also sunny skies for the north, Launceston 16, Devonport and Cressy 15. Burnie fine, 15, partly cloudy for Strawn 16, very windy for Curry, 15's the top. Sunny skies for the lovely east coast, 16 for St Helens, Swansea and Orford. Now, those fine conditions won't last long. Showers about the north and west on Thursday. Snow will fall to around 900 metres. On Friday, the forecast remains much the same, with showers continuing about the north and the west. And Saturday, more showers for the north and west, with snow falling to 500 metres. Further north now, a morning frost for Canberra for tomorrow, 14, 16 for Perth and Melbourne. A late shower for Adelaide, they're chasing 20 degrees. Right now, it's partly cloudy across most parts of the state at the moment. Now, you're right, Murph, perfect skiing conditions at Ben Lomond yesterday, and with 2 left feet and a bump to the head, I think I'll just stick to the weather forecasting for now.
Ah, Kaya, you are a real trooper, but that's what happens when you live by that mantra, live like there's snow tomorrow. I'll be back later with updates. That's our bulletin for now. Thanks for joining us. Good night.